Hi, my name's Abby Stoica. Today I'll be discussing a project done in collaboration with Manzo Elementary School to evaluate the impact of their school garden on school-related stress levels of students. Manzo Elementary School is a neighborhood school in Barrio Hollywood, a primarily Mexican-American neighborhood of Tucson. It's a Title I school, meaning that a large portion of the student body comes from low-income families. At Manzo, around 93% of students are eligible for free or reduced lunch. Studies show that children from families of low socioeconomic status tend to have higher stress levels, as measured by salivary cortisol levels, which can lead to depression, lower cognitive abilities, and poor behavior. The school garden at Manzo was created by the school guidance counselor, who was looking for a way to decrease student stress using gardening to develop students' teamwork and problem-solving skills. While staff has informally observed changes in the school environment and student behavior, there's been a lack of empirical data to support the use of the garden in its therapeutic capacities. The purpose of this project was to evaluate the current relationship between student stress and exposure to the school garden, and to gather data about student perceptions of the garden and its benefits. To fulfill this purpose, teacher participation was recruited among 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers at Manzo. Students were given parental consent and student assent forms, with 41 students obtaining consent to participate. These students were given 20 question surveys, 15 regarding student stress, and 5 regarding garden exposure and perceptions. 5 different domains of school stress were examined, including school enthusiasm, affect management, interpersonal relationships, academic competence, and self-esteem. Students also participated in focus group interviews regarding their feelings about school, the garden, and stress. Teachers also filled out a brief survey regarding their perceptions of the garden's impact on student stress as well. The results of the surveys indicate that students have a strong affinity for the garden and feel it benefits them both academically and in terms of mental health. By looking at the results of each survey question, stratified by garden exposure, it was found that students with less exposure tend to have lower mean scores in the domains of school motivation, affect management, academic competence, and self-esteem than students with some or a lot of garden exposure. The clearest association between amount of garden exposure and stress variables seems to be in the areas of school motivation and self-esteem. The total stress scores of students never in the garden were found to be significantly different than students that were in the garden sometimes or a lot, though there was not a significant difference between those in the garden sometimes and a lot. Due to the way the survey was scored, the lower stress scores indicates poor mental health and coping skills. So these results show that students never in the garden seem to have poorer mental health and coping skills than students with garden exposure. Strong correlations were also found between spending time in the garden and enjoyment of learning new things, between feeling better in the garden and being excited for school, and between learning better in the garden and thinking school is fun. These strong correlations with garden variables are all in the area of school enthusiasm or motivation, but there were also moderate correlations found between garden variables in self-esteem and academic competence. The focus group interviews also showed that students had a high affinity for the garden, and that seemed to be an important part of their connectedness to school. They were more expressive and aware of the learned benefits of the garden, such as the physical and educational benefits, but also expressed using nature as a way to cope with stress. A 3rd grader said, "When I feel bad at school, I like to sit alone somewhere where I can just sit and hear stuff, and I can think about what to do, like talk to my friends or talk to the teacher." Another 3rd grader said, "I like it how there's lots of bees and the birds outside. Hearing the birds makes me feel good." Students and teachers alike reported that the students benefited from the garden. The results of this project suggest that garden exposure can increase student connectedness to school, self-esteem, academic competence, and school enthusiasm. These findings indicate that school gardens could provide students, particularly in low-income neighborhoods, a great opportunity to improve their education and health. Thank you for listening to me today. If you have any questions, you can contact me at the email address listed here.